Recorded here. So we've been talking about for the past, well, going on 3 weeks here, this topic of belief and identifying negative beliefs and what drives our reality here. And I think we talked about this last week, is paying attention to the synchronicities in your life, right? We talked about that interesting talk, and it was like, boom, right after that, you're like, all right, used it. And it's like we have this way of going about something and seeing the patterns and the synchronicities and the signs, and they're always there. But sometimes we take those negative experiences, or what we judge as negative experiences, and we don't take that as a synchronicity. No, that's life telling you, hey, you ain't doing it right. So keep searching. It's like, a kid who searches for treasure. I used to be, if the rainbow was out, I was looking for the treasure. I was that kid, right? I was riding around the block, getting the kids going and going, hey, let's go look for it, right? And there's actually some, proverbial spiritual truth to that. And you don't stop until you find what you're looking for, right? And so we're getting down into stop looking at all the different distractions and start looking within. Look at the one thing that in this field, that diamond is there. It's there. It's confirmed, right? There's a gold line, a vein, as they call it, right? That leads to the mother lode. So synchronicity, as I was talking about here, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm just going to share the whole thing here. Let me know if you can see it. Okay, cool. So just kind of going over this, right? I just want to keep on and burning this into our conscious here. I was talking with my girlfriend the other day, or a couple days ago, and I'm like, I'm really into, ancient history, especially like around Egyptology and things of that nature. And I'm like, these guys had a sophisticated knowledge or language. The hieroglyphs are not just pictures, right? It's actually like it's this type of framework that just tunes into your consciousness and just gets you thinking a certain way. And that was the language they were using. They were using the language of consciousness. And so we bring more consciousness to us, the more we can tap into that type of language or that type of frequency of communication. And this is a good example of what that is. We see a framework physically or mentally, visually, and now we can start to put that into our lives, our reality here. So that negative reinforced synchronicity, as I just mentioned, right? I wasn't even thinking about this, but look at that as a synchronicity. Those negative outcomes are synchronicity. It's just reinforcing something that isn't working for you. But the more we start to look into it and start digging for that gold or that diamond, the more we're going to get into a state of positive synchronicity, freedom, inspiration, choice, growth, all these things. And so I was talking with Chris, one of my friends and clients, and we got to talking about this earlier this week, and he shared this document with me. And he was like, dude, I got something to share with you. And I wasn't even talking about beliefs or anything like that in that moment. And I got this Evernote document that I can share here. And he got it off the School of Greatness podcast. Again, this is like why it's so important to just put what's right in your headphones. Because if you're listening to these things, the universe is going to talk to you. God is going to talk to you. Higher self, yourself, you are going to be talking to yourself going, hey, listen to this, take this in, eat that, listen to this, drink that, etc. Right? And it's going to give you those synchronicities in the positive manner when you start eating right, literally and proverbially. And so this is food for thought. So shattering your limiting beliefs. He sent this to me. I didn't write any of this down, and it's like right in sync with what we've been talking about, right? And I feel like we needed to get more into detail and understanding of the different type of fears, and this really answered it. It provided the resources to it. So blow it up a little bit more. But we got primal fears, right? So these negative fears that are popping up right here. There we go. Okay. So this framework right here, right? This negative side of things, all this right here, survival, right? Primal fear, the physical pain of death or some outcome that it's going to impact the people that you love. That's how I take this. You could take this in many ways, I think, but physical pain or death attached. I kind of relate that to, the ones you love, because you give your life for your wife or your kids, but you're going to try to not put them in that position, right? So there's a primal fear there. Intellectual fear is the fear of failure, the fear of success, self-worth, right? Rejection, not being loved, running out of money, running out of time, right? These are choices that will justify, rationalize, reward ourselves with, get paranoid, project out the negative outcomes of success, project the negative outcomes of doing something and not being loved or getting judged, rejection, right? And this just creates, oh, I don't have a choice. Oh, I'm saving my life. I'm doing it because I'm just getting by. How you doing, bro? I'm just getting by, right? Making it work. All this type of talk of like survival, survival, survival. If you start to look at things a little differently, now you can go, okay, instead of survive, you thrive. And it's in the looking into this and the curiosity of this, the kid-like tendency, the beginner state of mind tendency, where you start to just be curious because you don't know what's in there, and you start to look at it with less judgment and just more curiosity. You start to see for what it is, and you're like, oh, okay. There's really nothing that sounds silly, the fear of success. That sounds silly, the fear of failure, right? These things. So that's intellectual fear, primal fear, intellectual fear, and then imagine future events. So if I do, let's call it the state of America right now, right? Well, people are getting all fear-based and freaking out over a civil war and, a world war and all this other stuff. And it's like, man, I know people in Bali who are living it up. I know people, including yourself, are living it up still. And it's like, yes, there's bad things going on, but that's like it's looking at it from down the street. That family's just got shit that they got to deal with, and it really ain't your house to deal with, right? It's like you're gonna continue to hold yours down and enjoy your life and give your family the space and place and the attitude and energy where they don't even have to focus on this stuff. You may be, but you play it cool, right? So intellectual fears feel like primal fears. That's something to dig into a little bit more. So I urge you just to like write down this particular podcast episode to look into, because it will expand upon this. But like I said, I'll include this in so you can actually look at this. I'll post this on the school app. The thing about fear is, I love the definition of fear is false evidence appearing real. And he says in this statement right here, you can't overcome something that doesn't exist. So it's like you're shadow boxing something and you're thinking it's the real thing, right? It's like, no, you got to be light. You got to be light. You got to be, smooth. You got to be just fluid with it all. And that's how you should approach these things, because if you approach negatively, positively, it can't help but go with more choice, more options, more freedom, more inspiration, more growth. If you justify a negative belief and dig into it negatively, it's just going to continue to deepen itself. All right, we got shit to clean up. We got work to do. Let's do it. And it's going to get to that diamond in the rough. And until that moment of discovery where you're like, I got it, it's usually that self-worth aspect down to its core, self-worth or a fear of death, like in some way, shape, or form. Running out of money isn't the root cause of something, right? The root cause of the fear of running out of money is probably a self-worth thing, right? It's a fear of success. Well, that fear of success is a self-worth. A fear of failure is a self-worth issue. Not being loved is a self-worth issue. So now we get into the primal fear and go, okay, fear of death. Why don't you feel worthy? Well, I just don't got it in me, or I'm just getting by just enough, and I'm getting enough from the universe or the world or my life just to be alive. So again, it kind of like circles back. I kind of see this like fear of death and fear of self-worth, or the lack of self-worth, kind of working together, right? We know what that diamond looks like, so to speak. So when you dig into it and you find it truly and go, well, damn, yeah. And what you've dug into some things, not being loved and self-worth, big things. So what do? You got to tell yourself, okay, I see you. I am worth it. And it sounds so cliche, but it's like, what are you saying to yourself in the mirror? What are you doing when you work out? What are you doing when you choose your health over others? What do you do when you make time for yourself? What do you do when you're listening to this stuff? What do you do when you attend these calls? It's self-worth building. You feel better about yourself. And as a result of that, it starts to shape your thoughts and which shape your actions. And then that shapes your results. And then it's just this feedback loop over and over again. So not overcoming something that, so trying to overcome something that doesn't exist just ends up keeping us in this perpetual negative synchronicity, right? Wrong way, wrong way, wrong way. Why does this keep on happening? I'm telling you, you're going the wrong way. We keep on spinning around in circles, right? Or bashing our head against the wall when it's like, hey, no, go left or go right, go a different direction. Think positively. All right, so moving on here. People create boogeymen to fight them every single day. It's not about overcoming, it's about integrating them into success. These fears are tools for your tool belt. This is a reframe. So again, the reframe here is how I've been saying it, and you take it into your own words that resonate with you. But I just visualize if I'm being shown something that I don't prefer, it's not even a like or dislike. Like there's a difference in judgment and preference. So when I approach something and I judge, I'm pointing the finger at it going bad. That's just my interpretation of it. That's my definition of it. Whereas if we start to approach a failure from a positive standpoint and go, it's just a sign that I'm going a different direction. Get back on course.
Mhm.
All right, start taking this way. Which route can I go? Which options do I have in front of me? And what can I do to get there? And then just keep on repeating that process because you're going to go down that path and find a negative synchronicity in that as well. But in that is a
Mhm.
positive synchronicity because you're like, all right, cool. I've gone right, I've gone left, I've gone 45 degrees, I've gone 95 degrees this way. Okay, I haven't tried 180. Let's try that. And you just keep on going that path. That's loving the process, right?
Mhm.
Loving your enemy, loving your opponent, loving this negative feedback synchronicity to then change it and come back at it and go, okay, you got back down to your best weight, right? It was like, boom, okay, now you're getting back into that place. You're approaching it differently though. You're looking at it differently. You could be doing the same things, but now you're just doing it with a little different attitude, a little different space, a little different frame. And
Mhm.
that's going to help you get to then 5 pounds and 5 pounds and 5 pounds over and over and over again. How you look. I saw pictures with you and your story and with your family and all that. And it's like, okay, you see yourself in there. I know you see the man who you can be in that picture. And you got to reinforce that. That's positive. It's like, okay, we're getting there. You're showing up, you're being that man. That's who you are. Now, who is he? What does he look like? Keep on tapping into that. That's the growth. That's the positive. That's the choice. That's the freedom. That's the inspiration to see anything that you want to see that's in front of you, regardless of what anybody else says. That's where you got to be like, that's why inward is so important because you don't care about what anybody else says. It's about what you feel. It's about how you feel, what you need. And then in that, you can teach everybody else to do the same damn thing. So now nobody's coming to you with their problems anymore because they're fixing them themselves. But you're a beacon
Bro,
of
I can't tell you
light there.
how,
Go ahead.
yeah, I can't tell you how many people have started working out from seeing my TikTok videos, bro.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Like shit is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you inspire me. You inspire me. I'm like, what the hell? Like,
Dude,
it's crazy to see that, you know?
you got more relatability than I do with anybody at your weight.
It makes sense.
You're walking in their shoes. You know
For sure.
firsthand what it feels like to not be in the body that you don't want to be in. Let's scratch that. It's not even a want anymore. It's you're at that higher level going, hey, it's good up here. The air's really clean.
For
Keep
sure.
going, right? And they see you and
Sure.
like, damn, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And that like I saw something earlier today. It's like when you teach something or you show something, like it keeps you accountable for yourself. So you're like, I can't say something and not do it. And that's just in us. Our word is our bond, and we break the bond with ourselves more than we will with anybody else. And that's where if you start, right? If you start giving yourself love like you give everybody else love, you're no longer breaking the bond of that word with yourself. So that's how you start to believe in yourself more and more and more, is that self-love. Because again, self-worth is a lack of self-love. So now, people get it through external sources. They get the self-love, or they get the love, but not the self-love from external sources. And it's an illusion, because that shit that feeds us, that gives us that feeling of love, deteriorates. So the bad food, the excess of women, the distractions, alcohol, gambling, weed, drugs, sex, all that shit, it's like it's a temporary hit that doesn't leave us fulfilled. Not for long, right? We feel the hangover. And how you know it's real is that it's just everlasting. It's just there. It's unconditional. It's there regardless if you fuck up or not. It's there regardless of whatever happens or not. It's there regardless of however you look or feel or not. And if you can be aware of that and see, the whole spectrum and go, this is all part of it. It's yin and yang, right? Dark don't exist without light. Light doesn't exist without dark. And we need both of those things, and we got to love them both equally and accept them both as a part of us. That's where you call it the shadow side or the dark side or any of those things that people talk about. These are things that get us more in touch with ourselves and release the things that no longer serve us. Because once when they're being heard, it's like, all right, they let you go. They release their attachment on you. And it's coming down to that self-love, that self-worth. They enhance each other. So anytime you put time and energy into yourself, it gives just a deeper meaning of the best investment you can make is in yourself. Right? Like that's a true statement that people just say, and I didn't really know it when I said it myself for a long time. And now I can I'm explaining it in a way that I understand, that I think you guys understand, is that the investment in yourself is self-love, whatever that is. And I just had a conversation with my son's mom. We co-parent really well, but we've had our times, and we get along really well, and there's definitely a love between us regardless. But it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of time in the ring with her, toe to toe, to get each other's respect. And it was all about me. Like, you as the man, you're the one who has to earn the respect. The woman, it's already given, right? It's, as a man, you have to create respect and earn that respect. And how you do it is by taking responsibility for everything in your life, everything you do, everything you say, everything you are. And man up, basically, right? And when that happens, you get the respect. So this past year, we really went through it, but it's been great ever since. We agreed to custody, and he's with me all the time, but she gets him on every other weekend, and you can see how that could create some friction. But as I develop trust and he's killing it, he's doing great, there's a lot of love between all of us. And so my son came home from karate last night, riding his bike, and he had a moment. He got into his room and he's just had the best bike ride of my life. And I'm like, wow, what's that? He goes, I just had a moment where I just realized how good my life is. He's like, I really felt it. He's like, I got a good life. Like, he gets to ride his bike to and from karate in a neighborhood and a city where he doesn't have to worry about somebody jacking his shit, chasing him down, getting in trouble. There's not a bad group of kids that he hangs out with. They're all really good. And it's like, I didn't grow up with that. So I was like, damn, that's awesome. you know, just to be in that type of space and not have to look over your shoulder and just think and be, really just be. And you know, we got to experience that. So I shared that with his mom this morning, and she texted me. I sent her that message basically, and she's like, uh, you know, that's all I want from him, to know that he's loved. Because I said, I was like, he's feeling the love, you know, around his life. And she's like, that's all I want from him. And there's wisdom in that statement, because that's, at the end of the day, that's all we want. So we got to give it to ourselves, and then you are as the leader, showing others how to get more love. And as a result to it, it's like everybody gives more with the more that they got. So this self-worth, this self-negativity, these negative synchronicities of something's going on that's just combative and not working and not moving and not breaking ground. The answer isn't out there. It's all in here. And you got to look at it differently. You got to change it. And it's understanding what these fears are, or are really trying to disguise themselves as, because they want to exist. They are afraid of actually becoming non-existent. So again, it's like a toxic ex, man. Like, they will trick you, fool you, make you, they'll play every game that they can with you. It's not even a toxic ex. It's any of those things that give us like a temporary hit, whether it's shit food or women or gambling or weed or drugs or whatever it may be. Like, that shit is a temporary hit. And it wants to keep you in that place because it's going to be afraid it's going to be left alone. It's not going to exist anymore. Just as you fear, if that you break out of it, that you will no longer exist, that you will no longer be alive or comfortable or pleasure. Like, people like coincide this like with, yeah, healthy's good, but man, you can't live unless you're eating a donut here and there. Or yeah, life is good, or like, I used to think this way. It was like, yeah, I get the idea that relationships are good, but man, I don't see it. I don't see it anywhere around me, and I don't see anything that I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I want to do that. It seems so constrictive. It seems so limited. It seems so confining. And it wasn't until I started digging into myself and looking into myself and what I want, that the women started getting really just not fulfilling anymore. And it was like, I just don't want it anymore. And I wanted faster than ever to get out right afterwards. So it was like, all right, that ain't cool. That ain't filling my heart, like myself anymore. So you start looking at that, and then you start to experience more freedom, more positive views on something that you may have looked at as negative before. It takes on a different light, takes on a different skew. So health is the same way. Money is the same way. Business, relationships are all the same way. They can all be positive. They can all be that, or they can be non-existent in your life, neutral, doesn't matter. Or they could be an aspect of negative, and we get to pick and choose that. So it's a preference. Yeah, shit happens. It's raining out right now. Okay, what's my preference? Well, I'd rather stay dry and inside. Okay, that's kind of like a neutral positive in an essence, but it's something as benign as that, something as little as that, to be aware that I am choosing to stay inside, or digging into that further and going, is that limiting my life right now to not go outside or to avoid something? And we can take it a step further and make it something really dramatic and go, okay, do I take time off and spend time with my family, or do I actually go do the work I know I need to be doing? Right? Which side's going to flip? And the answer to all these is what excites you the most in that moment. And make a deal with yourself to the level of limitations that you have for yourself. So if it's a flip the coin situation, do this or do that, be with family or go to work, flip the coin. And it's like, okay, if it flipped to work and you're like, damn, I really want to spend time with family, that's a sign that you're more excited to go into the family and do something with them, because those are the things that all these people who are talking about, who are successful in some way, shape, or form, have a structure to their life, but they also have the ability to chase or not chase, but attract what excites them. And that leads to the ultimate outcome of what they want. So you spend time with your family for a little bit, then you go get to work. right? Like make a little deal with yourself, change things up. You know, I go for a walk every day with my dog, and I make a different route every single time because it sends a new train of thought for me. It's like it's a different experience, it's a different viewpoint, it's a different little tweak on the same thing that I do every day that allows me to see another aspect of the same thing, which is us, which is life, which is health, which is all these things, which is these negative and positive beliefs. Looking at them from a different angle helps us to see the whole picture, and then we get to see more. That's raising our consciousness, that's raising your awareness. I heard something recently that the definition of mind is actually consciousness. The definition of mind is awareness. So when people are thinking like their mind, and it's like the spiritual thing in a sense, you could define it that as well. Or you could, some people define it as the brain, I think a lot of times, but it's an aspect of it, and it's your consciousness. So when it's mindset, it's your consciousness, it's your awareness. When we're talking mindset, we're talking about where is your consciousness, where's your perspective, where is your mind set to see this thing as a whole. So getting back into this, understanding that these are two sides of the whole, that's where we left off. This is really just looking at the same thing we've been talking about for the past 3 weeks, but in different ways. And there's nothing, this is like continuous work. It's just like working out. It's just like eating healthy. It's just like doing the right things. It's putting the right things in your ear. It's watching the right things, surrounding yourself with the right people, and being in the right rooms. You know, these things are all meant to create more of what you want. So you got to keep that picture in mind as you go through this process, and pay attention to those pains, pay attention to those fears. And when you get down into these fears, we have them all listed right here. I think as a whole covers pretty much all of them. The primal fear of death, the intellectual fear of failure, success, rejection, not being loved, running out of money, imagining future events that aren't actually real, or thinking about the past and being frustrated or something about that, right? Like it's not in the now, it's not in the present. And when we dig into any of those fears, that it's like, boom, I'm a fear of success or fear of not being loved, take it a step further and go ask yourself, is this an issue of self-worth? Am I putting time and energy into myself, self-love into myself? Whether it's asking questions, digging into this process in and of itself is giving yourself attention, which is giving yourself love, which is then going to create more enlightenment, more awareness, a bigger mind, a stronger mind, which then allows you to then go into whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever gets thrown at you, whatever circumstance is presented in front of you. You're going to approach it from a different angle because you are now a higher mind, a higher level of consciousness. You understand what's creating this experience in the first place. And it ain't the same conversation you had yesterday or last week or last month or last year. That's what I mean by, like, Sean, you get down to that best weight that you had. It's not, we're back at it again, all right, back on the same horse. No, this is a whole different animal. This is a new season. This is the Chicago Bulls in the 94 season, not the 93 season. Right? You got a whole new set of opponents, a whole new approach, you got a whole new game, all within the same game and the same teammates and the same this, that, and the other, right? So it's that constant work, it's that constant reminder that we just need to put time into ourselves. And with all that, that's going to create more awareness within ourselves, which then reflects outwardly to be less reactionary and more aware of the preferred choices that we have in front of us, and start making those choices in a more calmer, poised manner that's in alignment with who is really running the whole show, your higher self, that individual who looks, feels, and acts and thinks and talks the way that you know you have the potential to be. You just have to stay tuned to that radio station, that TV channel, that way of thinking constantly. And it'll be tested with you every single day, because the more you do it, the more people are actually going to come to you with their problems, who really trust you, who really believe in you, who really look up to you. And how you handle their situations is a reflection of how you should be handling your situations. So every conversation and everything that you have, everything I'm sharing with you right now is just saying it to myself. Right? And it's like we can nod our heads and feel it because we're all in that place where it's like, yep, I can see it with myself. I can see it where it's going, how I can use it for myself, and then how everybody else experiences it and how they can use it. And then it's a process where, like, Sean, you're filming your workouts on TikTok and people are starting to work out because of you. They're going to come to you with scenarios, situations that you're going to be able to help them out with that you've gone through yourself, right? And it starts to change your perspective and your level of expertise in this area, right? Which then enhances your results. And as a result of that, you'll just be more solidified as that individual. But what's cool too is that you're going to, there's always a set of problems to deal with. Like there's never an ending. That's my point. Is like now the problem is solving other people's problems. And that's a good problem, right? And then, okay, now you can see how that can increase your value in this world. And now it's a different perspective. It's not just what you do for business, but now it's what you do personally. And then those things interact and connect. And now you could connect those two to create a whole different business or a whole new persona or a whole new self, right? And that's believing in yourself. That's self-worth. Again, those things just continue to come back. And I think at the end of the day, if there's any fear of death, I choose to believe out of all the possibilities of death being the end all be all, and there is absolutely nothing, and that there is no such thing as death, that everything that appears to die in this reality is just an illusion. The things that really stand true, like that KRS-One statement, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the nose that smells and hears and sees and all those things beyond the grave, that's what lives on. There is no such thing as death. That creates much more growth, choice, freedom, inspiration than just going, this is it, this is all we got. So I pick and choose and prefer to believe that out of that possible scenario. And so you can pick and choose those things out of even a negative. So let's remove the primal fear. And I run myself through situations where I'm like, if I was truly at the point where it's like do or die, like I run myself through those scenarios, not in a dark, negative way, but in like, would I actually show up to that belief that I truly telling myself that I believe? That I will live on, that I will carry on, that I will not cease to exist in such a situation. Because then that starts to push your comfort level a little bit more higher, right? You can start to go against bigger bullies, bigger dragons, bigger monsters, and not feel so small or at risk of dying in that regard. And that you can see how that relates to your self-worth, where it's like, I was listening to a little thing on who was it? Kevin Garnett talking about Michael Jordan. He goes, dude, that was the only guy I ever saw who had like a green aura around him. Like he was just like this guy who was lit the fuck up. And I'm like, choose to believe that that was actually real because we do emit an aura. And we are emitting light. And to say who anybody like, hey Sean, your screen flickered black for a reason right there. Like it was just that's a sign right there. But Jordan did it as best as anybody. They called him Black Jesus for a reason. Because that motherfucker is enlightened as fuck. He knows every choice and every move that he's made, and I still pay attention to him, man. He's making moves for a long run beyond his life. Like this dude he's quietly just changing the world. Let me put it that way. Right? Tim Grover, same thing. These guys are building up an army of people who think individually. And it's like, and we're doing the same thing. And it's like, this is how you cultivate like a world that you want, is by being the world that you want, being the man you want, being the person you want, And you start to attract other people around that. And that's how you can, you know, divide the worlds and avoid the crazy and not be so susceptible to all the shit that everybody else is worried about. Because you just, you know, you got your army, you got your people, you got your thing going on. And again, it all comes down to putting work into yourself. If we didn't have this polarity, we wouldn't be so forced into a position to have to look at ourselves. So, and again, it's a positive thing. And if any feeling of being stuck, of being limited, it's the opposite of these expansive synchronicities. It's anything opposite of this, smaller or limiting, no choice, lack of freedom, not inspiring, you know you're in a negative feedback loop. So you got to stop looking outward, and it's a sign to go, all right, what's going on? What do I need to believe about myself in order to have this experience right now? Over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, it's probably due to a self-worth limitation or a fear of death. And then dig into that. What is that? So that is that's all I got. You guys got anything to share?
No, I think this is awesome as always, man. And being able to build off of what we've been talking about is great. I'll definitely be checking out that School of Greatness podcast too,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of uh, be more intentional about what I'm feeding myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because sometimes I'm thinking back on when I had spiraled into uh, uh, the more negative mindset.
Yeah.
And before I look at it, I start thinking about what I was listening to, like at the gym or riding in my car. Before I knew it, I bounced back on some of the old stuff that I start, listening to
Mm-hmm.
before. That
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily positive for feeding my psyche. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's important. Sometimes if you don't watch it, it's easy to slip into, that negative behavior. So, feeding yourself the right foods, like both physically and spiritually, man, is uber important. Coming to realize that, and more than anything, I think it's more important to recognize, being able to identify when you're on that downward spiral. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now I think the tools you've been able to arm us with, solid.
Good,
So
man.
yeah,
It's staying in it, you know, constantly and just you're passionate about something, right? And it's like you'll start to research all aspects of it because you're so passionate about it, and nothing more passionate than yourself, how you operate, how you work. We're going to be wrapping up. It's going to shut down here in just a couple seconds here, but just yeah, continue to be curious. Like look at it from all angles, and you'll never stop seeing growth from that. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
yes, sir.